As you're starting to get ready for the college football season, every team's got a win total. And let me tell you something about those win totals that a lot of people miss. A win total is not a talent ranking. Just because one team is projected to have more wins than another doesn't mean that that team is necessarily better than the other team. If it were just about talent, this would be easy. You just line up the rosters best to worst, and then you put them in that order. But that's not the question that a win total answers. It's not about asking how good is this team. It's about asking how good is this team against these 12 games in this order with these road trips with this roster that walks through the door. And the part that nobody says really out loud is that in college football, the schedules are not even close. You have two teams that can be the exact quality of football, the exact same one as each other, and one gets handed 9 wins while the other one gets buried by the draw, specifically with these huge conferences. So you don't start with the roster and you don't start with the number. You start with both when you're analyzing some of these teams. As we get into preview season, we're going to find some teams where the schedule sets a really good table. And maybe there's a unit or a guy on that roster good enough to eat that up. I found 8 win totals that I love. I'm going to get into 2 from every conference, all overs. Let's get into it right now. We're going to start in the SEC in Tuscaloosa, Alabama over 8.5. And I'm going to start with the reason I love this team, because I think it's dangerous. That secondary, Alabama returns every starter in that back end and is headlines by Xavier Brown, who might be the best cornerback in America, full stop. This is a kid who took one to the house, 99 yards against Tennessee, who's had game-sealing picks, and who's going to be a high draft choice. You pair him with a veteran safety room and length everywhere, and that's how you survive a quarterback transition. You let the defense hold the rope while the offense figures itself out, and I think that they will this year. Because make no mistake about it, this is a hard schedule. Out of all the teams I have here, I think it's the hardest schedule on my whole list. That's why the number's only 8.5. They got a road game at Tennessee, at LSU, and at Vanderbilt. And Vandy's not really a punchline anymore. Georgia comes to Tuscaloosa. You got Florida State on the non-con at home. That is difficult. But when the schedule is a tax and the number drops because of it, and the defense is this good, I mean, you got to understand, Kalen DeBoer is 20-8. He's got 2 cupcakes on the schedule. He's got a bye to steady a new quarterback, and I trust the program to beat this draw. I love them at 9 wins, so give me the over. Let's head to Norman then. Same lesson, let's just turn it up a little bit. Oklahoma at 7.5. This road slate is certainly a gauntlet. You got Michigan out of conference, Texas and Dallas, kind of a road game, kind of a home game. And then the SEC ships them to Georgia, Florida, Mizzou. That travel is the entire reason that a 10-win playoff team is sitting at 7.5. But what I love still is this defense. Oklahoma's defense held opponents over 100 yards below their season average last year, which they were top 7 in the country. And it's back. Kip Lewis is going to fly around. They have 2 freshman All-American corners in Eli Bowen and Cortland Guillory, Peyton Bowen at safety. That unit alone is going to keep them in every single game on the schedule. And now, John Mateer's healthy. If you didn't know, he was playing with that throwing thumb that bothered him for 4 games. And he was never really the same after that. He was a Heisman frontrunner before that. I loved him last year. I love him this year. A top 7 defense plus a healthy Mateer plus 4 winnable home SEC games. I mean, they already went 10-3 through a schedule this hard last year. I think the defense travels. 7.5 feels way too low. Let's over to the Big Ten now, where the schedule flips from kind of a headwind to a tailwind. I like USC over 8.5, and honestly, wouldn't be shocked if they were in the playoff this year. The thing I love about them is the continuity. They are the only team in America that brings back their starting quarterback, their head coach, and their offensive coordinator for a 3rd straight year. So no change in either of those in the past 3 years. And they've got the most experienced offensive line in college football in front of Jade Maiava, who I think is fantastic. He was the single most efficient quarterback in the country last year. They have both leading rushers back. Lincoln Riley finally spent his portal capital on the defensive end of things. And then you look at the map. Oregon comes to the Coliseum. Ohio State comes to the Coliseum. Washington comes to the Coliseum. You got the 3 best teams on your schedule, and they all have to travel to LA, where Lincoln Riley is 50-7. They have no Notre Dame this year. That's not a game they play anymore. 7 home games, a couple of byes in some really key spots. The market has this over sitting, in a weird spot. I think some people are tired of the brand, but the continuity and the schedule screams 9 or 10 wins to me. So take the over for that one. Then we have the most bankable read on the board. When I was looking through the Big Ten, this one it felt obvious. Iowa over 7.5. And I'm going to say something that sounds crazy. I don't even need to know who the quarterback is. Have we ever really needed to know who the quarterback is? Because the thing you fall in love with at Iowa is a Phil Parker defense, and it is a machine. Iowa has not finished outside the top 20 in scoring defense since 2014. Not one time in over a decade. They hold everybody to about 3.5 yards a carry every single year like clockwork. And so if there's anything to trust across any of these, it's that. They also have Zach Lutmer back anchoring that secondary, who's a kid who was second team all Big Ten. He turned down the NFL draft to come lead this group. And now you get to marry that defense to really not a horrible schedule. You have the tough trio, Michigan, Ohio State, Washington. They're all bunched in the middle pretty early on in the season. But after that, if they come limping out of that at like 506 games into the season, after that, the only heavyweight that visits Kinnick is Ohio State. The rest, they open with 3 straight home games. The back half is Wisconsin, who went 4-8 at home. Then you get Purdue at home. You get Nebraska at home. Give me Kirk Ferentz. Give him a great defense, a soft home slate, and he's going to grind out minimum 8 wins, like 13-10. So that felt like a good over to me. The Big 12 is interesting. And the roster schedule marriage, I think, gets really loud with BYU. Over 8.5. I mean, here's the thing to love. BYU had the number 1 defense in the Big 12 last year. The core is back. You got Isaiah Glasker at linebacker, Keanu Tanuvasa anchoring the line. I'm not even going to try to pronounce some of these other names, but they are loaded. Then they went into the portal and they grabbed one of the best linebackers available. This kid from Cal that put up 100 tackles. On offense, they returned the reigning Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year in L.J. Martin, who ran for nearly 1,300 yards, and then Bear Bachmeier, who was the Freshman of the Year. This is one of the most seasoned, proven, efficient rosters in all of the country, and I trust Kalani Sitake. Why is this number where it is? You look at the schedule, the one true heavyweight in Notre Dame has to come to Provo. I mean, everybody's talking about how Notre Dame might go undefeated. That's going to be dangerous. A night game in Provo in one of the loudest buildings in America. And BYU misses Texas Tech, the league's 11-win favorite, entirely. They have 7 home games, and you mean to tell me a 12-2 team with the best defense in the league dodges the best team in the league, and the number's 8.5? That feels like free money. That's a gift. And then here's one of my favorite lies on the board. TCU, over 6.5. For a team that's gone 9-4 a couple years running, what I love about the Horned Frogs is that the machine feels built. This offense has finished second in the Big 12 in passing in a few straight years. They return their top target in Jonathan Dwyer, and the only thing that's held them back is turnovers. Well, Josh Hoover's not there anymore. Their old quarterback, he put the ball on the ground or in the wrong jersey way too many times, 42 times in 31 starts. So what did Sonny Dike do? He went and got Jaden Craig out of Harvard, which, if you want a smart quarterback, feels like the thing that you need to do. His entire identity is ball security. He had 52 touchdowns to 14 picks in his career, and you bolt a caretaker onto a high-octane offense. And then just look at the schedule. They open up against a 4-8 North Carolina team in Dublin, which I think they'll win that game. You got Grambling and Arkansas State at home. You got 3 wins in the bank easily before October. They have 7 home games. The only brutal spot is the finality at Texas Tech. This feels like a 9-win roster. They have a soft start. They can really work their way into their schedule. And you mean to tell me this is capped at 6.5? I mean, if Craig just protects the ball, I think this cash is like early November. I'm not going to lie. Last stop we're going to get to is the ACC. And again, it's all about the draw. SMU over 8.5. The reason to love them is simple. They've got the best quarterback in the league. Kevin Jennings is 14-2 as an ACC starter. The Mustangs are running an actual Heisman campaign for him. And this year, they finally balanced him out, bringing in Kendrick Raphael from Cal, who had over 1,600 career rushing yards to take the load off. They have 3 offensive line starters that are back. The linebacker room pretty much is going to be entirely intact on the defense end of things. And then the schedule hands them the gift of the year. I loved Georgia Tech last year because of the schedule. This year, SMU's got it. They avoid Miami. They avoid a Clemson. Two of the bigger ACC heavyweights are both off the schedule. You got 5 ACC home games. You get revenge spots all over the place. You got one against Cal, the team that bounced them from the title race last year at home. The only trip that scares anybody is at Notre Dame in late November, but they got the best quarterback in the conference. You skip the best 2 teams in it. 9 wins isn't the ceiling. It kind of feels like the floor. So I'm going to go over on that one. And then we're going to close the deal with the wild card, whose schedule I think helps them quite a bit. I love Pitt this year over 7.5. And what I love is the young core, and it's a year older. Mason Heinschel broke out as a true freshman. He threw for 400 on NC State, who was the first Panther to do that since Kenny Pickett. And he's flanked by Ja'Kyrian Turner, who ran for 745 yards as a freshman. He torched Georgia Tech for 201 in a single game. You add in a couple of transfers to some pretty key spots, the run game is going to be legit. The number that matters is when Pitt scores 30, they win. They were 8-0 in those games last year. The problem was a November schedule that really ran them into ranked Notre Dame and Miami. Well, look at it now. They open with 4 straight home games. They have 7 total. And Notre Dame, the team that helped sink them, is gone from the schedule entirely. You got a year 2 quarterback, I think a run game that can get downhill, and a slate that I think finally gives them a little bit of runway. The arrow points up over 7.5. I love it. So there you are, 8 numbers: Alabama, Oklahoma, USC, Iowa, BYU, TCU, SMU, and Pitt. 8 numbers, 8 rosters that I really like. 8 schedules that I think the market took into account a little bit, but I started to read it in a different direction. I love all of these. Alabama's got a good enough secondary to beat a brutal draw. Oklahoma's got a defense that travels. USC's got the continuity in the big games at home. Iowa's got the best defensive system in the sport and a really soft back half of the schedule. BYU's got the best defense in the league, and they missed the league's best team. TCU's got the weapons, and they got a quarterback who's not going to turn it over. SMU's got the best quarterback in the ACC, and they skipped the 2 teams that could beat him. And Pitt's got a young star and a schedule that really quit fighting him. In the end, win totals is not about a grade on your roster, but it is a grade on your roster against your schedule. And on these 8, I think they graded it wrong. That's who I've got. Talk to you soon.